and gentlemen, welcome to Eat, Sleep, Suplex, Retweet.
What's happening, everybody? This is Ross's Retro Report here on Suplex Retweet Extra. My name's Ross McLeod, and today we are taking you back to June 25th, 2000, to the Fleet Centre in Boston, Massachusetts, to retro review King of the Ring 2000. And of course, I'm always joined by a guest in this show. Every king needs a joker. Please welcome the Jared Leto to my Joaquin Phoenix, Scott McLeod.
You know what, I'll still take it.
Even though it's Jared.
Yeah. 30 Seconds to Mars, I've got some good stuff, you know. find the silver lining, you know.
Find the silver lining indeed. But if you want to find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube for that fact, at Suplex Retweet, that's our handle for on Instagram. We are on Tinder, that's at Jack Graham. We are on Grindr, that's at Ryan Gallagher. And of course, we have two different feeds. We have the feed you're currently listening to, Suplex Retweet Extra, which is available on iTunes, Anchor, Spotify, and all good Android podcasting sites. And we also have our main site, Eat, Sleep, Suplex Retweet, which is also available on all four of those platforms. And if you, like me, had to write that down just to remember it, then maybe you should go to suplexretweet.com, where you can find all of that.
Yes.
That no better?
Yeah.
Much better. Lovely. So, King of the Ring 2000, King of the Ring, the first king of the new millennium. That's how they're building it up here. Obviously, we have the annual King of the Ring tournament, which had been going on since 1993 as a pay-per-view at this point. But a big focus here was the cracks starting to show in the McMahon-Helmsley faction. So, if anyone's listened to the retro reviews we've done so far, we are doing the decade 2000. Obviously, at the start of the new millennium, Triple H marries Stephanie McMahon. The McMahon-Helmsley faction start. Then Vince and Shane join together with them at WrestleMania 2000. The Rock has sort of been the foil here. Him and Triple H have traded WWE titles back and forward, but now we have The Undertaker back. He's full American badass at this time. Kane has returned.
Yay.
He is shut up. He is on the side of the faces, even though he is the biggest heel going. He's only out for championship gold now for himself. And the story sort of here is Vince putting Triple H's title on the line a lot. Mm-hmm. Vince maybe costing Triple H quite a bit. And Linda McMahon saying to the face team of Rock, Undertaker and Kane, don't let yourself get sucked in here. Mm-hmm. Don't fall for this divide and conquer strategy, because that's really the only chance that they have. So this is a stacked card, but there's also quite a bit of filler. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, I mean, plus you and me could probably recap this pay-per-view without even having to go back and watch it, because we had this on VHS when we were growing up.
Yes.
And an odd 2-pack that also included Capital Carnage 98 for some reason.
Yes, we are that old. We had this on VHS. We had it with the original Undertaker American Badass and not the bastardized, not WWE Network version, which is absolutely horrendous.
To be fair though, that American Badass one, the Kid Rock version, is my least favourite Biker Taker song. I think it's just absolute crap.
It is, but they seem to...
I get what you're saying. Like,
no, his entrance seems to fit with, like, everything's set out to the music, whereas the new one just doesn't really fit it.
I can get that, but just personal preference. Plus, I don't like Kid Rock at all.
That's fair enough. So there is about 1,000 backstage segments. There's obviously all the King of the Ring matches. So what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of condense everything into one. You know what I mean? When we talk about the main event, we'll talk about all the segments that are going through that, because people complain McMahon's are all over the product, you know, the authority angle and all that.
Yeah.
There is, I believe, 8 segments with the McMahons.
That sounds about right.
The McMahons and the Stooges sort of thing, because we have the match itself, we have DX who are part of the regime, they're in a tables dumpster match against the Dudleys. We have the evening hour match with Patterson and Briscoe. They each have a segment. Vince has a segment with the family before they go out and at the start of the night. So there's 2 right there. Triple H and Shane have a segment. Linda and Vince have a segment. Then, so that's 9 segments for the McMahon-Helmsley factions. We then get a Kane interview and an Undertaker interview to further this interview. It's 11 segments.
And we also, because WWE spent so much money on a bit of real estate in Times Square, we had to have a random Mick Foley's in WF New York where you can clearly barely hear the commentators, and you've got Ivory in the background trying to hand him a beer and he can't hear her. She's totally shouting, Mick!
I mean, say what you want, but Ivory took the bottle cap off that beer absolutely superbly, and I think that really did give her her Hall of Fame induction. So we start with the King of the Ring. A lot of feuds that have carried on, and a lot of things that happen in these matches that end up carried over to the summer. WWE do a good job with these tournament matches of setting up sort of offshoots. So, opening match, we have the brand new Intercontinental Champion Rikishi. He has faced Chris Benoit. He's facing Chris Benoit, in the opening match. Chris Benoit, the SmackDown beforehand, basically challenged him to maybe a warm-up match before King of the Ring, and Rikishi basically goaded him into putting the Intercontinental title on the line. Rikishi wins the Intercontinental title, but then Chris Benoit absolutely rattles him with a steel chair and beats him down. So Rikishi's coming into this match with an injury. Radicals are just about done at this point. Chris Benoit seemed to kind of break free from them first. They're doing a really good job of making Benoit seem like dangerous at this point, because they are setting him up for the WWE title match with The Rock at this point.
Yeah. I mean, it made sense at the time, like when you first seen Rikishi come in, because Rikishi was one of the most popular guys in the show, and he clearly is at this time because he comes out to a monstrous pop to start the show. But looking back in hindsight, seeing Rikishi with the IC title is a bit weird, because there are a lot of like popular characters when you think about them. They like to him, the Godfather, don't really need titles. But whenever you see them with titles, it's just a bit odd. So yeah, they showed the footage from SmackDown. He gets attacked by Benoit while he's celebrating with Too Cool, and then Benoit does further damage, and that's kind of basically the story of Rikishi's King of the Ring. So like throughout the entire night, that he's basically, even though he's the bigger guy, he's dealing with injuries that are slowing him down. And at first I thought it was stupid that Benoit would get himself disqualified and all that. And what was the point of him taking part in the King of the Ring? But they said it's a bit of a wider story of him being dangerous, and that is to set him up for bigger things. What I did like is, we'll talk about some other matches, how they're weaving in things that have been happening on TV, like these wee feuds. And with the story, like you've got these two, and then we talk about Rikishi. Rikishi has a mystery with Val Venus, who we'll see later on.
Yeah, I think that's the weird thing about it. You talked about certain characters. The old Intercontinental title / new Intercontinental title / one we just replaced, the Attitude Era style IC title only really looked good on certain people. I think it's because it's the wrestler's title. It looks weird on people who aren't like. Whereas the US title, see, because WWE's never gave it the prestige WCW that had, it always just looks like, oh well, it's the US title.
I think it was a mixture of, we need the IC title off Benoit to free him up for other things, and plus like Rikishi's probably a reward to Rikishi for being so over, and also when he'll eventually drop that soon to somebody else who they're trying to push. So basically it's just a convenience kind of reign more than anything else.
So you mentioned the finish, a good wee back and forth match. Benoit gets frustrated that he can't keep Rikishi down despite the arm injury he gave him on SmackDown, and he then proceeds to wail on Rikishi's head and an absolutely brutal chair shot to get the DQ. We have our first match of the night. Rikishi defeats Chris Benoit via DQ. He puts the crossface on, and this sets up a storyline that goes throughout the night, which when we get to the final I'll talk about my thoughts on the storyline. It's Rikishi and the arm injury. Rikishi, who's £400, but he's been booked like, Daniel Bryan, the ultimate underdog, you know what I mean? Yeah.
And like you said, it was a quick back and forth because, spoiler, I found this out in preparation for the show. None of the King of the Ring matches in this entire tournament go more than 10 minutes. The longest one we'll talk about is Kurt Angle's first round match, and that is a whopping 9 minutes and 50 seconds.
I remember when I was younger thinking that match went too long. I sometimes get like that. See, I know that since the likes of Kenny Omega went over to New Japan, and since the whole, Ring of Honor partnership with Japan, that some of the best matches ever have been put on by that company. But because I'm a child of the Attitude Era, when I see things like, oh yeah, Tanahashi and Okada went 50 minutes, I'm just like, I don't have 50 minutes to get that. Like, I thought 9 minutes was too long for an angle. But there's some weird finishes that when we look back on, didn't really make a bit of sense, and we'll actually talk about the second one, which is we have Val Venus, currently aligned with Trish Stratus. He's changed his music, he's not yet shaved his hair. He's gone up against European champion Eddie Guerrero, currently with China. See, in reviewing, and we'll talk about when we get to the end of this review, our next pay-per-view. In reviewing this pay-per-view and our next pay-per-view, I got a wee bit sad because Eddie Guerrero, since the night after Mania, has had a great European title run, and this is when it starts to tail off. He had great matches with S.A. Rios, Chris Jericho, Dean Malenko and Perry Saturn in a triple threat match, and that's made him my favourite. I don't have fond memories of the European title. This has made him my favourite European champion. It's made me want to see that title come back just in his honour. But it's him heading into this, he was being pushed so strongly at this point. He had held the title, as we mentioned, so this is June at this point, so night after WrestleMania. He's held it for just over 3 months, I believe. Yeah, because WrestleMania was March. So in the Attitude Era, that's like Bruno Sammartino's 8,000 day reign. And I just want to go to the finish because it's a great match. There's not really much that stands out in the match, bar the finish. It is a good back and forth match with Eddie Guerrero and Val Venus, who I think was incredibly underrated at the time. Trish gets on the apron to distract Eddie. So then China pulls Trish off the apron. Val Venus goes to grab China, but then Eddie goes to roll up Val Venus, which feels like it would have been better if China was on the apron, Trish pulls her off, and then don't give me that look, get your mind at the gutter, and then Val the heel rolls up, but then Val kicks out and then just hits Eddie with what is a beautiful fisherman suplex, 1, 2, 3 for the clean victory. It's a weird finish, and we talked about feuds they're going to set up. Val and Trish versus Eddie and China is going to be a summertime feud, which I'm actually quite looking forward to reviewing.
Yeah, it was a decent back and forth match, and to a certain extent the European title is also kind of a workers title to an extent, so it's good to see the likes of Eddie holding it. I'll be honest with you, not a fan of serious Val Venus. You know that original porn star Val Venus is one of my favourite characters or anything, but just feels like they were trying too hard with it. It's just a weird techno version of his old theme song. The splash off the top is still called the Money Shot, even though he's not doing the porn star thing anymore. And then again, the cutting of the hair, trying to make him seem more serious that he'll do later on. Just I remember watching on an episode of SmackDown in October '99. It was the main event was Val Venus versus The Rock, because this is the first attempt at trying to push Val Venus, and he was going to go on to beat Mick Foley on pay-per-view, even though a feud that started over him stealing the Mr. Rocco shot that Mankind gave to The Rock. But watching that match with The Rock, he looked like, God, it just so evident Val Venus, you do not belong in the main event. So they tried kind of a mid-year push, we'll move up to the IC level, and it still didn't feel right. Again, it's one of the things where they were trying too hard. Nothing against Val's ability, and like you said, it did seem weird that there was then false interference, and then just ended with a straight up fisherman suplex. Like you said, it was beautifully executed, but it wasn't as a result of any distraction. It came a minute afterwards. Yeah,
they're trying their best here. He's a serious, he is a good in-ring wrestler, but he is one of these people who is remembered for his character, because nobody turns around and goes, "What's your favourite Val Venus match?"
This one.
One that stands out is, if you watched King of the Ring recently, this one, and just for the moment of Rikishi splashing him from the top of the cage, you think the cage match at Fully Loaded, but you don't remember that, and spoiler alert for our next review, Fully Loaded 2000, Val Venus won that match. Nobody remembers that. Everyone just remembers it's like the Superfly splash.
Yeah.
No one remembers that Don Morocco beat Superfly Snooker. It's just it's a moment. It's not a match. So he is someone who's remembered for the gimmick. And this, they're doing their best to put Trish with him, but just no one cares.
Yeah.
It is a weird one. Third quarterfinal match. My favourite quarterfinal match. We have Crash Holly. You actually mentioned this earlier, which I laughed at. Hardcore Holly's most interesting part of his gimmick was the over £400 thing, and they gave it to Crash because Crash could do it better.
Yeah. The one bit of like interesting character he's actually had in his entire career, that and being a race car driver, was the best, like most personality he's ever shown. And they gave it to Crash. I remember getting a Crash Holly action figure because I wasn't properly watching. I didn't, when it came with the scales, like if you were watching you knew that. I just looked at these like, what were these meant to be? Why am I getting these with this action figure?
Yeah, I never really knew like the backstory. Like it was years later when I went back and watched Armageddon '99, and they're taking on the super heavyweights. Like they take on the team of Gary's favourite wrestler Viscera and Rikishi, and it's like, oh, because we're super heavyweights too. And like you don't pay attention to the entrances when you're younger watching these things, so it's like weighing it allegedly over £400. It was quite funny. They were building Crash up as this sort of look, the guy who could. He is, he's the Houdini of hardcore. We talk about the hardcore title match later on. Crash lost the title to Gerald Briscoe just before Judgment Day. He's been trying to get his title back. So in the meantime, they've kind of kept him ticking over. He's got big wins over Albert and his cousin Hardcore in the lead up to King of the Ring. And they've put him up against the charisma machine that is Big Barry, Bill Buchanan. He had a wee run actually at the start of the Retro Review. He was on WrestleMania, he was on Backlash, and he was on Insurrection in the UK. He fought Kane, he fought the APA, and he fought Godfather D'Lo Brown. Teaming with Big Boss Man in two of those occasions. It then just disappears, appears with the most generic theme, which I'm pretty sure they used for Tugboat at WrestleMania 17, by the way. But, yeah, just the most generic theme. A really athletic big man, but the match is really just Bill Buchanan slapped about Crash, and then the finish comes when he goes for that amazing pump handle kick, and Crash Holly rolls him up for the 3 count. The crowd absolutely love this. This is sort of Chad Gable before Chad Gable was a thing. You know what I mean? It's the little guy that could. It always encapsulates people.
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest surprises I think of the series is how favourably you've been talking about Bill Buchanan, like in ring. But unfortunately, this wasn't Big Barry's finest out in the ring. No. And I also said to you when we were watching this that the big intro package to the show is bigging up the seriousness of the King of the Ring and what it's done for people in the past, like shows like Austin, Triple H, and like all
Mabel.
that. I'm disappointed there's as many shots of Billy Gunn as there is of Owen Hart, which is one each.
It's one more than Owen Hart deserves compared to our best pal Billy.
But it shows like this year's contestants talking about what it can mean for them. It describes all the contestants as 8 men on the verge of superstardom. It's nice to see that they felt that Barry was on the verge of superstardom, but it was a case of basically 90% of the offense goes to Buchanan, and then Crash finds that one small opening and he gets it. Like that is basically his whole career, that he just manages to fight in some way, somehow. And I also love this part of the game. He's always like on the run with the 24/7 like rules of the hardcore title. But as soon as he gets the pin, he's out the ring, doesn't wait for his hand to be raised or anything. By the time Howard Finkel's announced that he's the winner, he's like almost to the back already.
Yeah, I know. It's Jerry Lawler actually mentions that. He goes like, steal the win. He's left the arena with it. And then we have what is considered the Iron Man match of the last of the first round matches. I do like the King of the Ring. There is always one really good match in the first round that you think, oh god, that could be a final. Chris Jericho, coming off his Intercontinental title feuds with Chris Benoit, he's had, I believe, 2 Intercontinental title runs and a run with the European title. I say run, one night with the European title.
One day still a run as Zack Ryder.
Yeah, there you go. Kurt Angle, former Eurocontinental champion, undefeated for the most of the year 2000. Kurt Angle's promo here, typical arrogant, brash 2000 Kurt Angle, refers to the people from Boston as fat, unemployed, now get me another beer. Not exactly an accent you'd hear down Cheers pubs with Sam Malone, but Kurt Angle cuts that promo. Chris Jericho then comes out, calls him Kirk Angel.
Oh, I always love that about Jericho.
Lets him know that he's a royal pain in the ass already. And the two of these guys, I always say this with Chris Jericho, there's not much you can really say about his matches. They're always just, like, when he gets to his peak, there's always one thing you can pick, like, oh god, I loved when he did this. But at this point, he's just the really, he's the internet darling, as he's been for all of his career. But at this point, he's the proper, here's the biggest compliment I can give him. He's the guy that all the kids in school used to make champion on SmackDown 2.
Yeah.
You used to go to school and used to ask people, who have you got as your champion? And you'd have the predictable answers like, oh, I might give it to The Rock, I gave it to Triple H, I gave it to Stone Cold Steve Austin. And then the other answer was always Chris Jericho and Jeff Hardy. They were the two non-WWE champions that always got the belt.
Yeah.
And then Gary would say, I gave it to Viscera, and the kids would laugh him out at the playground, but other than that...
He knew one day his time would come where he'd find people who love Viscera as much as he did.
Yes.
But yeah, like you said, a whopping 9 minutes, almost 10 minutes this goes. And I think it makes sense that these guys go because this is an year where the work rate guys are starting to come in. Like these guys, Eddie, Benoit, to a certain extent, Val Venus as well. So it makes sense that these guys are going at it like for this length of time. I mean, we reviewed their match at No Way Out. That was really good as well as the opener. What will confuse you the first time that what you're watching it, as it did me when I was younger, was the involvement of Stephanie McMahon. Because part of Jericho's best promo work was whenever he got a chance to just rip into Stephanie. And she comes out, tries to strap to me, he forcefully kisses her, which is seems outdated nowadays because they tried it in AEW with Dustin and Jake Hager's wife. And
I was about to say, we're recording this just a few days after AEW Revolution, where Chris Jericho went in as the champion of that company, and Goldust smacked a kiss on Jake Hager's wife, and everyone's like, it's a bit of an outdated concept. And yet here, when Stephanie interferes leading up to the finish of this match, women's champion, by the way. 0 women's championship defences on pay-per-view. She's been on every pay-per-view, she's just not defended the title. The most action the women's title's seen is when she tried to hit Chris Jericho with it. And Chris smacks a lip on her, and the crowd absolutely eat it up. They absolutely love it. They're like, yeah, that's what she gets. You're like, no, consent.
I mean, looking at it, it's quite fun she's interfering in this match because she has the issues with Jericho, which leads into Jericho having a match with Triple H next month. But she also, especially in the year 2000, has a big storyline going on with Kurt Angle as well. That will come later on.
Yeah, this is the sort of start of that storyline. Yet it lasts all through the summer and ends just I believe it, Unforgiven.
Well, we're in SummerSlam mainly, but
but this actually sets up a match the next month at Fully Loaded between Chris Jericho and Triple H, and this is just one of the many things that sets up the summer storylines here. We talked about the finish of Val Venus and Eddie not making sense. Kurt Angle taking full advantage of the distraction to catch the face in his finisher. It was a clean pin because it was just a finisher, but at the same time there was heelish tendencies there. I think that's what makes Angle so good here.
Yeah, he and Crash basically used a similar tactic in getting through their first round matches, and they seemingly got lucky. But the difference is the way they go about it, in that Crash is just so goofy, and the fact that he's the small man with kind of the Napoleon complex because he claims he's a super heavyweight. He like you're happy to see him get through by like win by any means, but whenever Cringle does it because he's just so annoying, you're just like, oh no.
Yeah. I think it was when Kevin Owens first debuted. You know, he was a heel, he was a dick, but he backed it up.
Yeah.
He could win clean by power bombs. You know, the angle slam was a devastating move. The ankle lock later on, it's a devastating move. He can always win cleanly, and I think that's what made him even better. Just the fact that he could win cleanly.
Yeah, and they really big up the angle slam, like, or the Olympics, some they sometimes call it. And during this pay-per-view, especially going through the tournament, he wins two of his matches on the show with that slam.
Yeah. So just a wee recap of the first round. Rikishi defeats Chris Benoit by TQ. Val Venus defeats Eddie Guerrero by Fisherman Suplex. Crash defeats Bill Buchanan by roll-up. And Kurt Angle defeats Chris Jericho via angle slam after Stephanie McMahon interfered. We're going to take a break from the King of the Ring now to discuss the first of 3 title matches on the night. It is a fatal 4-way elimination match for the WWF Tag Team Championships. The former champions Edge and Christian, the Hardy Boys, TNA, and the champions. I didn't know they were ever champions till I had this on video. Too Cool, Grandmaster Sexy and Scotty 2 Hotty. Scotty 2 Hotty coming to the ring wearing the title upside down. Something that's annoyed me since the year 2000 when I got this.
I'll be honest with you, I didn't actually notice it until I was watching this back for the first time in years, like, to do this show. And it's one of those things, like, annoying, like, how did I never notice that in all the times I've watched it? Like, obviously as a child, that's not one of the things you're going to be looking for. You're just there to watch the wrestling for what it is. So, like, it's not something I would have noticed, but once you notice it, you're like, Jesus Christ. I mean, I've slagged the Great Khali in the past for holding the world title upside down, and I think he's an easy target because of how bad he is, but like, someone is over Scotty Totty coming out, like, is there a reason for this? Because like, we've seen like Dolph Ziggler wearing the title backwards because that's part of his like entrance. Yeah. But like, this just makes no sense. It just makes you look like an idiot.
Yeah. Edge and Christian are out first. They cut a promo on, hey, boo your local sports team.
Yeah.
They make fun of the fact that in the World Series, Billy Buntner, I believe his name is, against the New York Mets. Edge, by the way, gets nuclear heat wearing a New York Mets top in Boston. It's kind of like Boston and New York is kind of like Rangers Celtic for like how hated the people are.
Yeah, I believe, as I said to you, like, Pete Rose made reference to this, like, some moment back at WrestleMania 14, because I think he was on the Mets, like, against Boston, and he came there and like, he got instantly booed and said, last time I was here, I remember we kicked your ass, and he said, I left Bill Butler some tickets, but he couldn't bend over to get them. And then the crowd erupted when Kane tombstones him.
Yeah, for anyone listening in that's maybe not familiar with baseball, ball went under the guy's legs. Just imagine the last minute of the derby, wherever you are, and the keeper lets the ball go in under his legs from an easy back pass. It's kind of like that. They get nuclear heat. TNA interrupt them. Hardys come out to a massive pop. Hardys are so over at this point. Too Cool. I mention this on every show, and I'm just going to mention it again just in case it's somebody's first time listening, but I forgot how over Too Cool were. Too Cool and Rikishi. People always wonder why Rikishi got a main event push near the end of 2000. Might have been misguided to turn him heel, but it was because he was just so over, and a big part of that was the alignment with Grandmaster Sexy and Scotty 2 Hotty. They are overly mad at this point.
Yeah, and I really think, I actually wouldn't mind if Too Cool got like a Hall of Fame induction one day, because Rikishi got in probably because of how big a part of the Attitude Era actually was and how over he was. But I think Too Cool was an integral part of like his like early success as anything, and like I think it would be a nice thing also with the passing of Brad Christopher. It'd be a nice thing for those guys to go in, because I think Scott Doughty, Scott Taylor, I think he's really nice, still works for WWE.
It does.
In the Performance Centre. Like, I think at the NXT Live event recently, he came out to do a warm for the crowd. But yeah, so it's like I like all these teams are all like, so people kind of slag TNA as a team. Like, people talk about them mainly as, well, this is how Trish Stratus got her start in the day. But like we had in 2000, like, at least they've had a really good run of pay-per-views. They've been on pretty much every pay-per-view since forming as a team, like from WrestleMania onwards. They're going to be in a really entertaining opener of Fully Loaded the next month. So I think they're a team that really don't get the credit they deserve. And as for this match, it really seemed weird because it just felt like a series of one-on-one matches, because you had Hardys v TNA go out, then Too Cool come for a bit, but then it's mainly Hardys, Edge and Christian, and then once the Hardys go out, it's Edge and Christian v Too Cool. We would have thought they'd have like Edge and Christian just wait on the outside until there's one team left, rather than the babyface mega over champions just basically waiting on the outside for the majority of the match. Also, your big takeaway from this was Trish has had an outfit change since she last came out.
Yeah, she was wearing a silver skirt. She was wearing a silver skirt when she accompanied Val Venus with his match against Eddie Guerrero. I don't know if China accidentally ripped it or caused damage to it, but she came out with no skirt on this time, just a pair of tan coloured tights.
Well, you can't wear the same outfit for TNA that you'd wear for Val Venus. I mean, come on, that's just ridiculous.
I actually thought she'd change outfits again. I wanted her, you mentioned Roger from American Dad, just constantly changing outfits. I kind of wanted her to be like that, but...
backstage just doing this big montage of outfits.
Comes out dressed like Kevin Bacon. So we talked about TNA. I'm just going to talk about the teams that go out first. TNA, always the bridesmaid, never the bride. They didn't win a tag title together. Do you think with, you know... I don't think, see if it wasn't for Trish Stratus, I don't think they'd be remembered as fondly. I just think they were sort of, they were like I was about to say they were like Ryback, but nobody's like Ryback, so they were awful. They were just sort of a thrown together team of the day, I think. They were, you know, Test had a really good run in the corporation. He had the Stephanie McMahon thing, he had the Shane McMahon feud. He then had, you know, the run in the Alliance, the run in ECW before he passed away, unfortunately. Albert had, you know, a bit of success in the Alliance storyline. He had the hip hop hippo gimmick. He had his massive career in Japan. The less said about Laura Tensai, the better. I don't think if they didn't team together, you'd really notice that much. I think they were sort of that team for a while.
Yeah, I mean, you'd think that like these were guys who'd get the occasional like that mini push that you'd see. Like Albert had a brief IC reign. You had Test getting brief tag reigns and the odd European title reign here and there. So you'd think they would get that sort of push together. They're more successful as tag teams outside of their team, like Test, like Booker T, I think he had a tag title reign, now he's in the Un-Americans. And Albert was like a big tag wrestler in Japan. He held the tag belts with Tyson Tomko and Carl Anderson.
Yeah, Albert, a two-time New Japan Tag League winner with both Travis Tomko and Carl Anderson, a tag team champion with Carl Anderson and Travis Tomko, and you mentioned Test, WCW and WWF tag team champions with Booker T.
And really, I think the reign by Carl Anderson and Albert as Giant Bernard is still the longest reign with the heavyweight tag titles. Went over almost 14 months, I think. And their tag team name, which I think is quite funny, was called Bad Intentions.
I mean, I wouldn't know about the New Japan one. You're the guy that hosts East Meets West, so I mean, which you can check out at Suplex Retweet Extra. There you go. I'll take my royalties check, please. I
don't think the two big bald men really translate well in Japanese, so. But I do like the way they're kind of eliminated in this, and that it's basically, I think Albert has the cover on Matt while the ref's getting tested at the ring. Jeff does a swanton on his back, and then Matt just kind of rolls over. I thought it was pretty creative, but talking about them instead, I think kind of the length of reign that Too Cool have, and I think they only won it a few weeks before on an episode of Raw, and then they dropped them here. You'd think they would get that kind of reign at least at some point, because the titles weren't really known for long reigns in this time. So you think maybe they'd at least be like what they used to do back in the day with heels, is that they, unlike most territories, the WWE, instead of like having long reigns with a heel before putting it on a face, they basically use a heel as a transition from one big face to the other. So like you'd have them take out from one hot face team like Too Cool, then drop it to the Hardys that are also a big hot face team.
Yeah, so we talked about TNA, they were first eliminated. Hardy Boys, Overlook Mad, they eliminate TNA. That sets up, obviously, we mentioned they'll be fighting at Fully Loaded. You know, in case you haven't noticed, we watched Fully Loaded recently. It sets up a wee feud with them. The Hardys at this time, we look back, I think, a bit more fondly on the Hardys. Not to say they don't deserve it, but I think at this time, WWE was very, Edge and Christian are our guys, and the Hardys sometimes suffered for that.
Yeah.
Like, you know, when you see tag title runs, whereas when it came to fan reaction, you know, I don't want to say watch them take their tops off, but when you see clips of them when they take their shirt off, they get this sort of Randy Orton pop where it's just all the women who are just like, yes! You know, they talk about men being perverts every time there's a bra and panties match. Listen to this screech every time Randy Orton makes his way to the ring.
I mean, you watch any Shawn Michaels match from back in the 90s, the screech of women when his music hits. I agree with you on the Hardys. I think we talked about them like at No Way Out when they finally got rid of Teddy and how they'd already been through 2 managers before. Like, I think they're finally on like the path where they should be because they're now with Lita. I think is this the first pay-per-view they've been on since Team with Lita? Was she with them at Judgment Day?
I don't think she was.
Yeah, I was thinking that. So
I don't think they were on Judgment Day. I think because at Backlash she was with S.A. Rios.
I don't know that, but
and Insurrection, the Hardys won by DQ, but they didn't have anyone with them.
Yeah, so I think this is the first period she's on with them, and then we mentioned I think there's a like air in the opening match against Tess Albert and Trish, like against Team Extreme. So this is just the beginning of like their group, and I think they've finally found that formula that works for them. Like I joked before, they found the right pair of trousers to go with that suit jacket.
So we'll talk about the finish of the match. We mentioned Too Cool. They only won them a few weeks before, but at this time Edge and Christian were very much the rulers of the tag division. Something else I always find weird, like I watched just about every wrestling show, like from when Chris Benoit started feuding with The Rock in 2000 to like just after WrestleMania. I watched just about every, you know, Jacked, Livewire, Metal, Raw, SmackDown, every pay-per-view going. So I seem to remember lots of wrestling for that time. You forget it's just over 1 year, and the Edge and Christian as winning tag titles. They won 7 titles, but they won them all in the space of 1 year. From WrestleMania 2000 to WrestleMania 2001, and it is weird to think about, like, oh, this great tag team. You're like, yeah, but do you think it? No, I think it's just the Attitude Era. That was that sort of thing at the time.
Yeah.
I was about to say, Jink, it harms the legacy. I just think I'm maybe thinking too much into it. But the finish of the match, great heel work. Edge and Christian used the titles to their advantage to win matches or to lose matches via DQ all the time during this reign, and this was no exception. We had Grandmaster hits the hip hop drop on to Edge. Scotty 2 Hotty's holding him up. The referee tells Scotty, "You're not the legal man, get out the ring." Grandmaster goes for the pin, the referee's out of position. Christian whacks Scotty on the back of the head. Not you, unfortunately. Edge covers Grandmaster, and when Scotty realises what's happening, Christian pulls him out the ring. Edge and Christian retain. Great heel work here. My main takeaway was the fact that Scotty 2 Hotty looked like he had shit himself at the end of the match with the big grin. He was trying to look menacing and angry, and he just kind of looked like he'd shit himself.
I remember pointing to the game when we watched the finish again that look at the crowd. There are some people who are just there like, oh fuck,
not them again.
Aye, and there's a sea of people just looking very disappointed, not even like booing, just looking very angry. And just one guy near the end of the arena just jumping in and going, yay, Team Christian.
I did like at the start of the match, like JR says, yeah, the legend of Billy Butler continues with these two knuckleheads. Like the kindest, most PG thing he could have said in the Attitude Era, knucklehead.
He sounds like a guy who's been teaching for like 20 odd years, and there's the two class clowns at the back, like, oh, I'm not dealing with you two again. I'm about 3 years away from retire, and I don't have the patience for you anymore. But like, we talk about like faces like constantly being popular, but usually faces, if their title reign go on for too long, they kind of get a bit boring. It's weird that in the last couple of months we talked about 3 very brief title reigns for Too Cool. You had Scotty holding the light heavyweight title for like 2 weeks, Rikishi's IC reign we just mentioned, and then this. So they knew like they were popular, that they needed to eventually put belts on them. I think they were smart on how long they gave them the titles.
Yeah. So we head into the King of the Ring semi-finals. We've got Rikishi versus Val Venus, and we have Kurt Angle versus Crash Holly. Rikishi beats Val Venus, a great finish to the match when we've had Trish trying to interfere the entire match. Rikishi grabs Val Venus when he goes for a big double axe handle from the top rope, grabs him into a belly-belly suplex. 1, 2, 3, but the story of this is the continued attack on Rikishi's arm. Trish jumps onto Rikishi's back. JR then yells, Rikishi trying to toss off Trish, which is not the best wording. Val Venus then low blows Rikishi when he's going for a bonsai drop on Trish Stratus, and beats the ever-living shit out of Rikishi with the steel steps, attacking his arm constantly. There is a massive, disgusting big purple welt on Rikishi's arm. Like, it's an actual bruise, so it would have hurt to actually, like, you know, for anyone at home who's ever had like a bruise and somebody just goes, is that sore? And pokes it, you're like, ow, yes, it's damaged skin and tissue. Of course it fucking hurts. So, fair play to Rikishi for taking those bumps. And it sets up Rikishi's in the final, but they're like, we don't know if Rikishi will make it. We don't know if Rikishi's going to make it. Once again, the 400-pound, the 400-pound monster being made to look sympathetic.
Yeah.
Kurt Angle then takes on Crash Holly. There's an interview with Michael Cole and Crash Holly beforehand. Crash Holly does well to make himself sound like a total dweeb. He plays up this whole idiot who thinks he's a tough guy. It's tongue in cheek. He plays it up to where he goes like that. Kurt Angle's in big trouble, mister.
I said to you, like, the way he was yelling at Michael Cole for acting surprised that he's got this far, like, the way he tries to sound like angry at Michael Cole, like, it's like Pee Wee Herman having a go at you. But if I could just make a comment on what's on the Val Venus match, I liked the finish in that it felt like with the belly, like, it was like what last bit of energy Rikishi had, and also because he's 300 plus pounds, the fact that that's coming on to you with a suplex, it was enough to keep Val down. One thing I didn't like about Jericho on commentary for Val's matches was more prevalent in the Eddie match, but I just forgot to mention it there, is they're talking about the business relationship between Val and Trish. Like, it always seems to be for years in wrestling, like a woman and a man can't just be like manager and wrestler without there has to be something going on. They have to be sleeping together. Like, even as like, even in 2017 when Selena first started Andrade, there were all like implications of what's the real nature of their like relationship, which I don't really like. Also, can we talk about Rikishi's bloody promo work in this show? Because like, Rikishi is well known for his dancing and he's like a stink face, and it's clear why he's not well remembered for his promos, because he feels the need to do this fake stuff after he finishes, like, this ain't nothing compared to what I'm going to do with Val Venus. Right.
Yeah, I think it was like a catchphrase. Like, do you ever have a mate that tries to have a catchphrase or tries to get something over and you're just like, mate, it's not happening, let it go.
Pretty much half the panel on this show, to be honest.
You're just like, it's not happening, let it go.
Like Mean Girls, Christian, stop trying to make fetch happen. It's not happening.
Yeah, I agree with you with the whole business relationship sort of thing. There's never but Zelina and Andrade, I think I've got it spot on now. I think people, like, it's not referenced on screen, Zelina's marriage to Aleister Black or Andrade's engagement to Charlotte Flair, but it's sort of like these two have a great business relationship. There's even the segment on Raw a few weeks ago where Lana goes, Bobby, my man, and your man Andrade will take down is it like Rusev and Humberto or something like that?
Yeah, probably.
And she just goes, he's not my man,
Yeah.
and I'm not his woman. We have a business relationship, and Andrade's in the background, like looking disgusted, as someone would say, that's his woman. He's like, no, I have my woman. You know what I mean? Like, but obviously this was the Attitude Era, and anytime a woman was at ringside, Jerry Lawler focused more on that. Angle defeats Crash in the other semi-final. Nothing really special about this match, is there? It's just a case of, you're like, oh, it'd be cool if Crash won, but then you're just like, he's not going to win.
Yeah, because they talked earlier about the match with Albert and then Crash and then getting through Bobby Gunn. I think the story here is basically like Crash's luck kind of ran out, like striking midnight on the Cinderella stories JR likes to kind of say sometimes. And again, he won with the Angle Slam like he did in the previous match, so making that Angle Slam like a very protected finisher.
Something as well, like, it wasn't 2 or 3 finishers like you get nowadays. It was 1 Angle Slam in the first match, 1 Angle Slam in the second match, and we'll talk about how that set up the final perfectly, because when a move is protected, you know, we saw it in 17 to 18, the F5 was protected well. And when a move is protected well, it always gets more of a reaction when someone kicks out.
Yeah, I think the big issue we had with moves like that is that sometimes they go for a period where they're not protected. So when the decision's finally made for protecting this move again, it's a bit of a cultural like, well, how can he kick out of 3 of that move, but he can't kick out of 1?
So are you ready for 2 Hall of Famers to go at it?
Oh, am I ever?
So, if this was maybe a 70s or an 80s retro review, and we were reviewing Pat Patterson versus Gerald Briscoe, you'd probably be in for a Matt classic. However, this was the Attitude Era. They were, I was about to say they were old men. They're younger here, they certainly don't look it, but they're younger here than Goldberg and Undertaker are now.
Good God.
Yes, so these old men for the time are basically being Vince McMahon's stooges. Gerald Briscoe wins the hardcore title from Crash, only for Pat Patterson to betray him, steal the title, and Pat Patterson has been hiding in the women's locker room, dressed in drag, so Gerald Briscoe can't get to him. So Gerald finds it, says that the only way he's going to get into that locker room is to dress in drag and go after him. He takes a male referee with him though, and the male referee is not in drag, which makes me think, if it was the hardcore title and you were just going for the title anyway, why couldn't you just broke into the...
I know, like, always very weird, like, you've been told where he is. Gerald Briscoe doesn't know, I don't believe he's told that Pat Patterson is dressed in drag. So, like...
He just told he's hiding in the women's locker room.
Yeah, I know, so why does he suddenly feel like this is... Well, is it just common knowledge backstage that that is the only way you can get into, like, the women's locker room?
Also, was it not quite common knowledge at this point in time that Pat Patterson is openly homosexual? So, like...
I mean, JR always made, like, jokes and references to it on commentary.
So, like, why would, like, if he walked into the women's locker room, he'd be the least threatening person there. He'd be like, yeah, it'd be more uncomfortable for him. He's not interested in anything that's on display there. You know what I mean? So it is quite a weird one, but Vince McMahon finds his 2 most senior people rolling around in drag, and he decides to tell them that at King of the Ring, you will defend the hardcore title against each other in a hardcore evening gown match. And I mean, if you found your 2 most senior employees rolling about in drag and you were embarrassed by it, why the fuck would you put it on a pay-per-view?
I think the thing is he's trying to embarrass them, but I think both in kayfabe and in real life, Briscoe's the one that's embarrassed, whereas Pat Patterson's probably just right up for it, because I was listening to an episode of Something to Wrestle With a while back, and it was a history of the hardcore title, and Conrad is all prepared to just grill Bruce about this match, where they asked, like, who the hell, like, East Con catchphrase when something bad happens, like, who booked this shit? And he talks about how they were in a creative meeting for the show, and initially, like, I think Bruce and a couple of people were pitching, like, I think it might have been for Lita and Trish, some sort of evening gown style match, and they already knew that they wanted the Stooges face off the hardcore title on the show. They went and they pitched the idea of the evening gown match, and then Vince apparently there was a pause, and Vince apparently just went, "What about Patterson and Briscoe?" Well, I don't know about them, Vince, but like, what do you think of this with Trish and Leah? What if we put Patterson and Briscoe in an evening gown match? And just basically, like, everybody in the room is looking at each other like, what the hell just happened? Like, Vince can clearly see the humour in this situation, but everyone else is looking around like, is there something we're missing here? What is the joke here?
The rumours coming out of Saudi Arabia recently with the most recent Super Showdown is that Vince McMahon was the only man in the arena and on creative that thought Bill Goldberg winning was a good idea.
Yeah. And, like, as I said, made a reference before, Chris Pritchard said, like, we all made the old joke, like, Pat Patterson was already picking out his dress as soon as he was, like, he was told, whereas they all joke, like, okay, who's going to tell,
Who's going to tell Briscoe?
Yeah, who's going to tell multiple time tag team champion, like, I believe second generation wrestler, that he has to go out. And what I found out recently is both men's only actual pay-per-view match in front of everybody in the Dragon.
Jesus Christ, it is an absolutely depressing sight. We have... So, Gerald Briscoe comes out to Real American.
Doing the whole...
Doing the hulking up. Absolutely horrendous. I think this is just to poke fun at Hulk Hogan at this point.
Yeah, because both Stooges originally came out a couple of times together, and there's even an episode where the Stooges and Linda come out to that theme song, and just seeing, like, stoic, seemingly dead behind the eyes Linda just stroll into the ring like your gran to halt while the most over-the-top entrance theme song of all time is playing in the background.
It's like when you're at a family party and your gran walks in, oh, Gran's here, and it's like your gran's just walked in as the Venga Bus song has started. Oh look, there's my 80-year-old gran. The Venga Bus is going. Fuck's sake. It's 1:30 in the fucking morning. Fucking lost my train of thought now. Patterson comes out to the stripper song. Thankfully, he does not strip yet.
I'm pretty sure I've seen somebody who looked like Patterson when we were on Alan Stag do down a side street.
Jesus Christ. I'm pretty sure Alan tried to throw me into a window with someone that looked like Pat Patterson and drag like, no Alan, no.
I'm not that desperate yet.
on you go, Ross, thank you, no. So Pat Patterson at the start of the match tells Gerald Briscoe he's going to lay down the middle of the ring and he's going to give him the title.
He prefaces it by saying, I'm going to lie down in the middle of the ring, you're going to lay down on top of me, and both of you are kind of like, oh good god.
That was a ruse. He attacks Patterson, he attacks Briscoe, puts Briscoe in the corner, force feeds him a banana. He then takes the inserts of his bra out, rubs them on his face. He then takes a female sanitary pad. God knows where it was been. It wasn't sanitary then. And feels the need to rub it on Briscoe's face. Both men strip each other of their evening gowns. Absolutely horrendous.
They're not a Bronco Buster at some point.
Yes, Gerald Briscoe hits Pat Patterson while wearing lingerie with a Bronco Buster. You can hear Jerry Lawler and JR in commentary, both friends with Gerald Briscoe and Pat Patterson, probably knowing that Gerald Briscoe hates this, and they are absolutely loving it. They are pissing themselves laughing at them.
More so like Jerry than JR. JR's, I think, from the same school of thought as Briscoe, so he's probably hating this as well. I think the crowd, they think, oh, the crowd are going to get a good laugh at this. The crowd quickly give up on this. Like, they realise this is a load of shite.
Yeah, the crowd do not like it. There's a bit where JR just went, I just heard someone yell, this ain't wrestling. And Jerry Lawler, quick as a flash, goes, I don't know what it is, but it ain't right. But thankfully, the 24/7 rules of the hardcore title kick in. Crash Holly, we talked about his Cinderella story going bust. He didn't get his King of the Ring crown, but he did get his hardcore title back. He runs in, he scuds. I hesitate to use that word because these men were nearly in the scud. He scuds Gerald Briscoe with the bin. He then hits Pat Patterson with the bin, pins him 1, 2, 3, and runs. Just leaves, which I think the crowd wanted to do at this point. But
the loudest they were throughout the entire match is when he came down.
yeah, I think crashes the title back, and the Stooges kind of went away for a bit after this. We'll talk about the McMahon Helmsley regime and what happens with them after the main event, but the Stooges were sort of a package deal with Vince McMahon, and they went away for a bit after this, and thank God, I think Gerald Briscoe maybe got a few phone calls for his brother Jack, just like, mate, what the fuck are you doing?
I think Jared Briscoe went back to his hotel, put the shower on, just curled off into a ball and cried for a bit.
Like you've probably all seen the gif, it's the scene from Arrested Development where David Cross is just crying in the shower, glasses on and everything, just sobbing uncontrollably.
I was thinking more so the scene from Ace Ventura, but please yourself.
Do you know this was David Meltzer's and Wrestling Observer newsletter worst worked match of the year 2000? And to be honest, this was a time where WCW was having Viagra on a pole matches and San Francisco 49er matches and just so much total shite. I mean, David Arquette was champion at this point, I believe, and this got the worst match of 2000, which just, for anyone listening in, it tells you how bad it is.
I think personally, there's a rare distinction of having both the worst work and at one point the best work match from Wrestling Observer. I think you had a brawl or street fight match with Sergeant Slaughter in 1981, which is one of the best matches. Like having a career that involves getting a Razzie and an Oscar.
Yeah, well, Halle Berry got one in the same weekend. No, was it Halle Berry or was it Sandra Bullock?
I think both of them have. I know Sandra Bullock basically came out and gave the same speech she gave at the Oscars at the Razzies.
Yeah, and
I think you're
I believe
right.
George Clooney has it as well.
I think you're right about the same weekend because I think she got it. I think Monsters Ball and Catwoman came out around at the same time.
Yes. One made you feel good, one did not make you feel good. We move on to a match that sounds crap on paper, although in fairness it followed an evening gown hardcore match with two pensioners, so I mean, not much sounds bad. A table dumpsters match. So we have D-Generation X, X-Pac, Road Dogg and Tory taking on the Dudley Boys. So this is during the whole Bubba likes to powerbomb women through tables phase, although you can tell this is the Attitude Era because the man who likes to put women through thin sheets of wood is the face.
Because I remember growing up always thinking the Dudleys were the heels in this feud because the video package kind of paints them in that light. It's only grew up in looking back on it, they did it with quite a few women. Like you had the TNA storyline where Trish was trying to get in his head. He was like, oh yeah, because Tori's a dirty Jezebel.
Yes. So Tory cost the Dudley Boys a few matches. She taunted Bubba. X-Pac's line, no one's putting my woman through a table. They almost put her through a table at Judgment Day before Gerald Briscoe made the save. DX picked up the win there. And in the lead up to this, Edge and Christian and DX threw the Dudley Boys in the dumpster and threw the dumpster off the stage. So for anyone who's never seen this, the Dudley Boys must put X-Pac, Road Dogg and Tory through a table. Tory, X-Pac and Road Dogg must put Bubba and Devon into the dumpster and close both lids. A pretty simple match concept, and actually a really fucking enjoyable match. It's my favourite match on the show. Well, it's my second favourite match on the show.
Yeah, it's a lot more enjoyable than you'd expect it to be, given like you hear the title handicap table dumpster match, you expect some like convoluted crap, but like there's tables all around the ring. They've got a special table with Tori's name literally on it, because it's spray painted on it. I really enjoyed this match. You can tell that they're trying to experiment with new concepts because they've had great tag team table matches, they've had great tag ladder matches. They're trying to mix various things together. They'll get it right in a few months, and it's the reason why we don't have tables, ladders, and dumpsters nowadays. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I did like kind of the fake out where it looked like Road Dogg and that had one where Dudley's went in the dumpster and closed the lid, but the referee hadn't seen it, So by the time they go get the referee, there's wee slits at the side. The Bubba and Devon slide out of it, and then they look in like, what?
So talk about some of the spots in this match. There is a bit where there's 2 tables set up on the outside on top of each other. We have Bubba in the ring on top of the steel steps. Devon passes him up Road Dogg, and he then proceeds to slam Road Dogg through 2 tables. They put X-Pac through a table from the top rope. Tori once again though is the undoing for the Dudley Boys. There's obviously, we talk about the fake out. We talk about how both people have been put through a table. The Dudleys chase Tori. Tori jumps in the dumpster to get away from them. And when Bubba and Devon open the lid to go after him, X-Pac and Road Dogg appear, hit both men with chairs. Both men fall into the dumpster for the finish. X-Pac win, but then you immediately see X-Pac rather loudly on camera yell, "Where the fuck is Tori?"
I know, he tries to act like the concerned boyfriend, but he and Road Dogg don't even slow down, they just start walking up the ramp. Like, it's almost like they don't really care where Tori is. It's
one of those ones like, if you lose your mate at a night out when he's in the toilet, you automatically, if you're leaving, you might think, "Oh, he must have left, he'll get us at the next pub." Kind of like we did to you in Amsterdam.
I know, that wasn't that funny.
For anyone who doesn't know, me, Scott, Stephen, Kwaku and David Hockney went to Amsterdam for Alan's stag do. Alan was there as well. It's not as if we all went. I was celebrating Alan.
I'll send you a postcard.
Alan came to. Scott went to the toilet. We all up sticks and went to the next pub. And it was only when we got about 10 minutes down the road we realised, where the fuck's Scott? Scott was still in the last pub. We just assumed he was with us.
Yeah, even though I went up to Ross specifically and said, "I'll be back in 2 minutes because I knew we were leaving. I just have to nip to the toilet."
I was mingling. We were with these people that we didn't know for a weekend. I wanted to get to know them and talk to them.
I was right next to you when I said it.
I'm going to be honest, Scott, I very rarely listen when you talk.
I mean, and then I'm frantically wandering around like the woman at the bar was no help. And I was literally about to phone you when I see you reappear at the door.
I like you said the woman at the bar was no help. I appeared at the door and the woman at the bar went, "Oh, there they are." As if to go, "I've helped."
Yes, I asked her if she'd seen what way the direction you went, and she said no. And I think what you said at the time, like, you suddenly realised, like, if I returned home without Scott, my mother will kill me.
It was the stag do. Oh, great. I was 20 quid up in the casino. And a brother down in the first pub we went to.
lost some weight over the holiday. Aye, Scott.
To steal a quote for the Ryans. Anyway, back to the wrestling. So, Tori's in the dumpster with the Dudley Boys. DX have won the match. DX don't realise that they're there. The Dudleys reappear with Tori by the hair. X-Pac runs in himself ahead of Road Dogg, gets a 3D for his trouble. Road Dogg tries to help, he gets a 3D for his trouble. The Dudleys eventually get their revenge on Tori. This is a storyline that's been building for this isn't just a put someone through a table every week. This isn't, use the spot every week. This was saved. They wanted to get their hands on Tori and they had to wait nearly 2.5 months. And they eventually get her. It's not about winning the match. It's just about revenge on this one person, and you don't care what happens to get to it. It was a really good feud. I think it set the Dudleys up nicely for the summer. And it starts to write, like, we talk about Gerald Briscoe and Pat Patterson went away. This is around about the time DX starts to go away. It's a shell of its former self. Shawn Michaels has been injured for years. Chyna's no longer affiliated with them. Billy Gunn's out injured.
Triple H's got new pals.
Triple H is with the McMahon Helmsley faction. It's not even called DX anymore. They're just sort of DX's pat. They're like they're like when you go to a party at your in-laws and you bring a couple of pals, so you've got somebody to talk to. That's kind of what Road Dogg and X-Pac are like at this point. They'll have a feud during the summer at SummerSlam and what have you. And it's sort of the end of an era here, isn't it? And it is nice that it seems to clear the clutter away from 1999, like X-Pac, Road Dogg and Tory, and then bring in the sort of the new dawn of the 2000s to 2000s onwards and the Dudley Boys.
Yeah, and like I said, we'll see X-Pac and Road Dogg at SummerSlam. We won't see Tory for a good while. I think she appears briefly again in 2001, and then she's pretty much gone. So it is a good angle to like kind of write her off for a while, because I think she was legit injured around this time. Let's say the 3Ds that Road Dogg and X-Pac get when trying to save Tory, two really well executed 3Ds. Just the way Bob is able to just slide into position, just effortlessly both times. And like you said, like it was just about putting her to the table. It wasn't about winning the match. And it was good that they got that like pop of finally get to see her to the table, because up until this point you actually realise the amount of heel victories on this show so far.
Yeah, because you've got Val defeating Eddie in the first round. You've got Kurt Angle's 2 victories. You've got
Edge and
Edge and Christian's victory. You've got obviously X-Pac and Road Dogg winning, and you could even count Benoit getting the better of Rikishi, even though he loses by DQ.
Crash and Rikishi are the two like biggest babyface like triumphs of the night. Like Crash getting the hardcore title back,
Yeah,
and Rikishi managing to stay in the tournament despite his injuries.
yeah. And speaking of that tournament, we are coming up to the King of the Ring final. It is Rikishi versus Kurt Angle. So Kurt Angle says he's 1 win away from royalty in a pre-match interview, I believe, with Michael Cole. 1 match away from royalty, 1 match away from immortality, and he goes, Rikishi's fine if you like dancing and rubbing your posterior in people's faces, pardon his French, but he's not a champion, and I am.
Despite the fact he has a championship belt and Angle
And
doesn't.
you do not, yes. The fact that he beat the guy that beat you for your title at WrestleMania.
I know.
Rikishi says Kurt Angle's going to learn, Captain America's going to learn that all the Franken weenies in the world can't stop this ass from backing up, which I don't know what that means.
I think
But then he does the aforementioned promo you mentioned, where he goes rah. I don't know what that is.
I think though, frankly, I think the best thing I can reference is like Cool Runnings, where he tries to get encourage the guys to come to the Olympics, and the promise of your face on a Wheaties box. I think that was a big thing back in the day, where like promising like athletes were always on Wheaties boxes, like Olympic heroes and like sport figures. So Angle being a gold medalist, I doubt he ever did appear on it, but I think it was just I don't know. I'm the least supportive person you'll ever meet, and I somehow know that. What am I doing with my life?
Kurt Angle makes his entrance first. Rikishi makes his way to the ring. As he's making his way to the ring, Kurt Angle tries to get the jump on him. Kurt Angle keeps going for the arm. Keeps going for the angle slam, but can't lift Rikishi up. And we talked about how Kurt Angle's won his first 2 matches with the angle slam. This is where not having people kick out of a finisher constantly pays off. We're in the main event at the last match of the King of the Ring tournament. Angle eventually gets Rikishi up. 1, 2, Rikishi kicks out. Crowd go wild. Crowd are firmly behind Rikishi here. They've made him look really sympathetic here. He's fought valiantly throughout this tournament, and it's going to take something. I think I'm actually starting to realise why they made him look so sympathetic. I've always wondered, like, why did they make him look so sympathetic, not win it? It's so the crowd know that it's going to take something big to keep him down. And fuck me, do we get something big to keep Rikishi down? Kurt Angle and Rikishi are on the top rope, and Kurt Angle manages to belly Rikishi from the top rope, lands right on Rikishi's injured arm. 1, 2, 3, and we have our first king of the new millennium, King Kurt Angle.
Yeah, it's this looks like the Money in the Bank is, I think, better suited for a heel to win it, because if you want a big top heel contender for your popular face champion, as much as you like a face to kind of come out on top after like a one-night tournament, kind of like Rikishi battling injuries, but I think, like I said, it made him doubly sympathetic in that he went through all this to fall at like the last hurdle. And from what I heard, apparently Rikishi was very disappointed he did not win the King of the Ring. Either like he's the IC champion and he's went through 3 matches in this whole storyline just to not win. I think the fact that these two were in the final, and you'll see what they do towards the end of the year, shows that they had big plans for both of them. And I think given that Angle's push towards the main event was way more successful, in hindsight it was the right decision. And it was again part of this big mega push he was on his first year. He's already held 2 titles at once. Now he's the King of the Ring. They kept teasing Kurt Angle face the winner in the main event at Fully Loaded. Well, alert, he doesn't.
Yeah, he fights him at SummerSlam, and it ends up being a triple threat match. The guy who gets eliminated in round 1 fights the Rock. Winner of WWF title match at Fully Loaded.
I know, and I love how Triple H, the heel, is billed up as he will be a fighting champion. He will fight the winner of King of the Ring at Fully Loaded, and then the crowd's favourite who ends up with the title decides, nah, I'm just gonna face someone else.
So yeah, main event time.
Yep, sorry, could just
Sorry.
talk about the main event. Like, this being like the same main event, like, felt a bit weird to me, and like I think quite a few things are in the face on the idea that this would be like the semi-main event before the big title match, and given all the personalities and that are in the main event, you can see why that went on last. Quite interestingly, ever since King of the Ring became a pay-per-view, the King of the Ring final was only ever main event the pay-per-view once, and that was in the first ever King of the Ring pay-per-view in '93 when Bret Hart beat Bam Bam Bigelow in the final, which is doubly surprising given that that pay-per-view also featured Hulk Hogan's final pay-per-view match in WWE until 2002 against The Rock, WrestleMania X8.
Nice wee start there, thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
So you're probably thinking, like, unlike usual pay-per-view reviews, we're kind of firing through this. This one's going to take a while to talk about because our main event is WWF Champion Triple H teaming with Vince McMahon and Shane McMahon to take on The Rock, Undertaker and Kane. So the McMahon Helmsley faction is starting to crumble here. Linda has started to get under the skin of Vince, and Vince has started losing his cool and making rash decisions, and much to the chagrin of Triple H, he has told The Rock, Kane and Undertaker that if any one of you 3 men can pin Shane, Triple H or Vince, you will win the WWF Championship. And it's an interesting concept that they've not really done it since, have they? I believe
They did it once more, bizarrely with Triple H in it again.
Oh god.
It was Triple H, Shane, so 2/3 of the same team, Triple H, Shane.
It was meant to be Vince and he got injured, wasn't it? It was Batista.
Aye. This time Triple H, Shane on the face team against Orton, Teddy DiBiase and Cody Rhodes. So Teddy DiBiase and Cody Rhodes were technically in a WWE Championship match in the main event of a pay-per-view.
And technically won it.
And Cody says he never got opportunities.
So we start the night with a promo from, sorry, not a promo, a backstage segment where Vince is basically being told by Shane, Stephanie and Triple H, don't lose your cool tonight, don't lose your cool tonight, and he informs them that tonight he is so cool and walks away with the most uncool walk I've ever seen. Well, Triple H, Shane and Stephanie have a look on their face like, did he seriously just say that? Did he actually just say that?
It's one of those things where like you see it, well, like, right, you got this, we all believe in you, yeah. As soon as they leave, he's going to fuck this up, because they immediately say like, he's not going to keep his cool. I say no.
There's also a wee bit of drama where Shane and Triple H are telling Vince to keep his cool, but then there's the promo with Shane and Shane and Vince where Shane goes, I'm not worried about your cool, I'm worried about Triple H's cool. So there's all these wee things starting to crumble, and then we have Vince and Linda where Vince just runs down Linda and goes, listen to me, little lady, don't you dare, don't you. Linda, like any woman and any man listening to this will know, men don't tend to go off unless they've really lost their temper. And when you start the argument, it never works out well.
I know.
Because there's a reason women say they're always right. It's because women don't apologise, but men have to apologise because, oh fuck, I better apologise for that. And this is that sort of thing where Vince has went off with a classic Billy Connolly, and I'll tell you something else. Oh, and another fucking thing. And Linda's there looking at him going, are you quite finished?
Mm-hmm.
Now when are you going to apologise to me? It is just... We talked about how there was too many promos. This one was my favourite one, where it was just Linda going... Linda basically triggers him with one word, because he comes in and slates her, and she goes, so are you going to be able to win 3-on-3? Or like SmackDown this past week, are you going to have 12 guys beating down 3 guys? And that's when Vince just goes, you listen to me, you listen to me.
He was like, because I think she kind of got under his skin, which caused him to accept the match on like Triple H's behalf, and then it's him because of her that he just agrees because of her again goading him to put the title on, which is why Triple H is so upset. And then he was like, okay, there's going to be no interference, which Shane gives him grief about, like, what the hell are you doing? You said you'd keep your cool, and... Now
we've lost the advantage, yeah.
But then Triple H, Vince tries to say, like, yeah, but these guys, their egos aren't going to allow them to work there because they know only one of them could be champion. But I favourite one where he's running all the things that Linda's done to kind of interfere in his business. And like the last one, he was like, you slapped your own daughter. But that we're getting the fact that on episode SmackDown before that, Stephanie slapped her because she introduced Mick Foley in the main event before calling her own mother a bitch.
See, we talk about Linda looking dead behind the eyes. See that promo where Stephanie slaps her? The look of absolute betrayal. You think it was a real life family feud. And I'm welling up here thinking of poor Linda getting slapped by her daughter going, what have I done? What have I done? And it's just so, like, Linda in moderation is great. Linda, when you try to have her make big announcements in front of a live crowd, is not great. And she's a member of fucking Congress now in America, so I mean, Jesus Christ. Oh, something we forgot to mention.
I was going to say, I thought we were going to go, you're not mentioning this.
Yeah, so there is I thought it was just for the home video release, but they kept it on the network version. They had a house show in Madison Square Garden the night before King of the Ring. Donald Trump, at this time, was weighing up a move to run for mayor of New York. Donald Trump gets interviewed in the crowd and gets cheered. So he gets 20 years ago was a weird time. This is before, he was president. Usually when somebody is nutty on Twitter, you just kind of block them, or back in the day you just didn't read the tabloids he was in. But he gets cheered, and he says The Rock's his favourite wrestler. There's a line on commentary where King says, I don't think Donald Trump should run for mayor of New York, he should run for King of New York. Well, he basically is the King of New York now. He's the fucking president. It's horrendous, and we'll just move on.
I do remember hearing a story that he didn't want to even move to the White House. He wanted just to stay in New York.
Yeah, he wanted to make Trump Towers like the base of... Yeah, because all his stuff's in New York, so he could still run his business, basically. Yeah,
but like you said, the fact that he gets cheered is bizarre. The fact that even in 2007 when he came back, that this feud was basically Trump is the face between the two.
Yeah, no, it is absolutely bizarre. So we see all these wee promos with the McMahon family. We see a promo with Kane. Kane's just returned. He says, what The Rock and my brother need to know is it's always been about me becoming WWF champion.
Surprised you could hear anything under that bloody thick mask he was wearing. What I thought he was saying was, Undertaker and The Rock nearly adopted the dog. I was born in. But because much like Bane, no one cared who Kane was before he put on the mask.
Yeah, 100% true.
Confirmed by the fact I've recently finished his autobiography.
Undertaker starts his whole biker gimmick at this point, and he's went from and in the darkness I will consume you, rest in peace, and crap like that, to just wee quips, oh hey, I'm just so wild. Oh yeah. Oh, and it's it doesn't take a brain surgeon to work out that Kane wants to be WWF champion. Hail Kane, executive brain surgeon. You're just like, oh, shut up, mate. Like, you're the southern smack talker. Like, just no.
He's that guy in the suburbs that's always working on his bike. Like, hey boy, you stay off my lawn, I'll whoop your ass. He seems like an extra from King of the Hill when he talks.
So we have all those promos with the McMahon family. We have Kane and Undertaker cut a promo. There is no Rock promo. The best promo, the best promo guy in WWE at this point. He does not get. He's the only one that does not get a promo.
I know they referenced he had a promo like on Sunday Night Heat. They're like, yes, but we didn't watch Sunday Night Heat. We don't get Sunday Night Heat on the bloody VHS, so we want to see the main shot you get of him before, like other than like the promo package at the start, and then before the match is just him looking weirdly sweaty despite the fact he's not even wrestled yet, just wandering the corridor getting intense, like, give a shit, I'm gonna win the title tonight.
Yeah. All three McMahons make their entrance. Kane makes his entrance. Undertaker, the first time we properly see The Rock. Entrance hits. If you smell, crowd go mental. This is proper. I love this time. I love that we've started with this year because this is Rock at his peak. The crowd are eating it up, and he just stares down Triple H from the top rope. Triple H is talking trash to him and speaking to him, and Rock does not break stride. He puts a hole through him with his eyes, and then there's that wee tense bit where Rock comes off the rope, and Kane and Undertaker sort of close in on him, and they're sort of trying to intimidate him. He's not backing down. Undertaker's trying to get Kane to back down. And it's like started already. You see Vince McMahon on the apron going, I told you. I told you. The actual story heading into this match, I think, is more interesting than the actual match. But I do enjoy the start of this match where Shane comes in when Triple H is taking down The Rock. Starts dancing about because he's hit The Rock with a few jabs. The Rock kips up, slaps Shane about. He is then tagged in by Undertaker, who there's a lot of things annoying about getting beat up. See when someone taunts you and lets you know every little thing they're going to do to you before they do it. I find that a bit. It's the equivalent of why you're hitting yourself in wrestling. And Undertaker goes, "Are we going to go over here? Hello, Mr. Turnbuckle," and launches Shane from one end of the ring to the other into this pissing turnbuckle pad. With the WWF title on the line, Rock, Kane and Triple H, Rock, Kane and Undertaker don't want to tag in and out because they know if they tag out, they won't get back in.
Yeah.
And they can't win the title if they're not the legal man. And it's done to perfection here. The blind tags constantly, and it's Vince every so often. They can't work together. I told you.
Yeah.
I told you.
Because when they start like breaking up each other's pins as well.
Yes.
Because they know obviously one fall, one person will be a champion, and it just cuts to Vince or in the corner smiling, and then you hear JR like, "See, JR, I told you, Vince always has a master plan."
The match starts to break down. The Rock goes for the people's elbow on Triple H, only for Kane to run in and chokeslam The Rock. Triple H thinks that Kane has joined the faction.
I know that's the implication that he's in on it. This is the master plan all along and all that.
You've got Kane with the hair down his face like some sweaty golf in the cat house. And then he just flicks the hair back while Triple H is talking trash to The Rock. And he turns round. And Stephanie knows it's coming because she tells him, don't turn around, don't turn around. Hits him with a tombstone. And
told you not to turn around.
Undertaker pulls Kane out the ring. Kane and Undertaker start scrapping. It's all breaking down here. You talk about a line on commentary. Undertaker goes after Kane with a chair he stole from Jerry Lawler. And JR goes, "He just stole the King's chair." And he just goes, "He didn't steal it, I gave it to him." He absolutely rattles the Kane with the chair. I've got this. If you go into suplexretreat.com, there's profiles on all the panelists. You can learn like what shows we've been on, how long we've been watching wrestling, learn a bit about us. I've got this because it's the match I watched the most, and it encapsulates, like, whenever there's a match like this where it's like people breaking down and turning, I always describe it as Attitude Era chaos, and that's exactly what this is. It's the creator of WWF, it's his son, it's 4 of the biggest stars, it's the 2 most legendary commentators of all time on it, and it's for the WWF title. It's not as if, no disrespect to the world title, the universal title, but it's not the main title. This is the lineage title, and it's just, everything's there for a perfect match, and there's just so many wee things, and the storyline leading up to it I think is absolutely sensational. It's why this is my favourite match.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's not going to be a classic match, but I think the story going into it and just the little moments that carry that story on, and like the way the commentators are talking about it, and the dissension amongst the faces, like, because they want to be the champion. And what I also loved is one of the final like spots of this match, everything's finally breaking down, and Shane's very early and he's taking big spots. Like, he did one against the Big Show, he's got to take a massive one of the most notable ones at SummerSlam, but here is one of my favourites. I think they just repeated it at the first Greatest Royal Rumble with Braun Strowman, but it wasn't as good as this, where Shane goes up to the top, Undertaker grabs him and just doesn't choke him, he basically just tosses him into the announce table, and Shane just is dead.
Yeah, this is just after Kane has hit the chokeslam on The Rock. The Rock is still down. He's been beat down by Triple H and Kane. Shane decides he's going to go for glory, and I think the best thing about this is the camera work. You know, it's not like modern day WWE where there's 40 camera cuts. No, it's one camera shot. It's zoomed right in on Shane, and all you see is a big tattooed hand come out of nowhere like a horror villain returning for the grave. And it's everything, as you said. It's the dive Undertaker takes, it's how he drags Shane with him, it's JR and King running out the way, it's the way the table explodes into a million pieces. There's just so many things here. And then we talk about Patterson and Briscoe take a break. This is how Vince and the faction fell. It was, you know, we talk about Icarus too close to the sun and his wings melted. This was Icarus getting too close to the sun. Vince McMahon had pinned The Rock when it was 12-on-3 on an episode of SmackDown. Rock is still down. Vince goes for the people's elbow. He throws the elbow pad into the crowd. He hits the ropes. He hits the second rope. The Rock kips up. And again, it's the camera angle, because you do not see The Rock kip up. You just see Vince running into The Rock, and it's the look of horror on Vince McMahon's face when he gets caught, and he knows everything he has done from Thursday night when he put the title on the line to tonight at this moment, he has played it all wrong. He has fucked it. Rock gets the pin. 1-2, Triple H goes to break it up. It's actually the Undertaker who basically thinks it's better to have the title out of the faction where I can maybe get to it than in the faction when I won't get to it. He pulls Triple H out the ring, he saves The Rock. The Rock gets the pinfall. The Rock is now 4-time, for the first time since March. So he's a 5-time champion at this point. He's a 5-time WWF champion at this point, but we mentioned we had the VHS copy of this, which we watched, you know, we wore that tape out. There is a WWF home video exclusive where The Rock announces he's a 4-time WWF champion at this point, and you actually realise, no, actually, Rock, you're a 5-time WWF champion at this point.
Only the third ever at that point, behind Hogan and Bret Hart.
It's weird to think how oversaturated the titles have been coming out. There's 2 of them. I
know the fact that between 2007 and 2011, Edge managed to get like 10 or 11 title reigns between the World and WWE, but I never thought I'd hear an Icarus reference on a wrestling podcast, but somehow you managed it.
It was beautifully done.
But following through the Spectral review, you really think about it, this is the perfect end to this faction, because Vince was The Rock's corner at WrestleMania. He screwed The Rock, and now he's basically, because Vince not only screw himself, but Triple H as well. Yeah,
you see it doesn't cut to The Rock when they say the winner in new. it cuts to Triple H. It says, "Here's your winner," and no, and Triple H just grabs his hair and is like pulling his hair. He's not walking with Stephanie. He's walked away from Stephanie at this point. I think Stephanie left like when the cameras broke out. He is himself. He has not waited for Shane. He's not He's not interested in Shane or Vince McMahon. He is distraught. He joined this faction to have total domination on the World Wrestling Federation, and it was the man who owns it who was meant to be in his corner that has cost him everything, because the promo package to this is Triple H saying, "This is the most important thing in my life," and he has now lost it. And it's a good end to the faction, because at this point Tori disappears. Patterson and Briscoe leave with Vince McMahon. Shane McMahon moves on to manage Chris Benoit, who does feud with The Rock, so it's like the only interaction with the McMahon family that Rock has is with Shane as the manager. Triple H moves on to feud with Chris Jericho after the kiss in the first round match. And DX, they aren't on Fully Loaded, and then they break up and have a feud with each other, X-Pac and Road Dogg together. So it's the end of DX, it's the end of Patterson and the Stooges as full-time people, it's the end of Tori as a full-time wrestler, it's the end of Vince McMahon till at least November, and this is when Triple H starts to go off on his own. Triple H is off on his own, and The Rock is going to start his proper run. This is not Rock leading into WrestleMania 15 where he's trading the title back and forward and we know he's going to lose it to Stone Cold. This isn't The Rock trading the title with Triple H to screwy finishes. This is The Rock, peak Rock, and they've decided, right, now's the time, we are going to run with The Rock.
I think this is begins his longest reign with that belt. I think he's second. I mean, the fact that his second longest reign is the reign that is when his last one when he beat Punk in 2013, and he wrestled like twice.
He wrestled twice, but he defended the title both times.
Like the fact that that's second to the reign here, where the year 2000 is basically, like you said, they're going full on with The Rock as the champion. I didn't think it was nice of the Undertaker to help Rock win, because probably the least thing you do, given that it was technically his fault that The Rock lost at Judgment Day. And then he gets on his bike and looks at The Rock, and they're both mouthing off. You can't really see what The Rock's saying, but you hear Jerry going, "You owe me one, you son of a bitch."
You're like, yeah, but no, actually, that's debt repaid, dickhead.
And also, like we said, like how it seemed like all built up that The Rock now was going to be the one to fight Angle, and then he doesn't. Really loaded. Like Angle's even showing backstage watching the matches after the entries with his, his big carton of milk, the big nerd that he is. And then in that VHS, it's him and him getting all excited anything with Coach, and he ends up pouring the milk all over Coach.
Yeah, it sort of ties everything we've been talking about up into a bowl, and I think the reason I like our next review will be me and Scott reviewing Fully Loaded. I think the reason I liked Fully Loaded so much when I watched it back, it was different, it was new. Not everyone who's been on the show, like the shows so far, is on Fully Loaded. Triple H is not in the main event, and he is not in a WWF title match. We have Kurt Angle going up against The Undertaker, we have The Rock against Chris Benoit in the main event. We have so many different things happening and so many new things, and I think that's where the Attitude Era, I believe, and the current era differs, because that authority thing went on for about 2.5 years non-stop, whereas the McMahon-Helmsley faction, which is more fondly remembered, was 6.5 months at most. Yeah,
because it felt like with the authority they'd come to their natural conclusion with like Sting helping Ziggler and Team Cena beat them, and then you could have just kept the Triple H feud with Sting without needing any authority. But I think for whatever reason they just felt like with authority, that brings ratings somehow, and they brought them back, and they thought they needed. How are we going to have heel sniveling heel champion Rollins without this authority backing him? Whereas they realised Triple H from here on could go on just with Stephanie, or even like by himself. He didn't always need the McMahons to help him be a great heel champion.
Yeah, it is a weird one. But that's going to do it for our retro review of King of the Ring 2000. 3 title matches, 3 new champions crowned, none of them a pensioner in a dressing gown, so I think we're all very grateful for that.
Yeah.
What was your match of the night for this one?
Oof. I think I'm just going to say the main event, because, like, given that how much was invested in it, and there were times in there, mainly like 98, maybe starting 99, where something would be teased throughout the night. Is this what's going to happen? Oh, the belief is this person's going to get screwed by this person, or this person in cahoots, and very rarely did it really pay off as they expected it to. Whereas the more that we've been talking about it, the more you realise everything in this main event kind of paid off as it should have. And the results were like I was almost tempted to say the Dudleys one, because of like it was a fun match given the daft stipulation, but I think there's just so much around this main event it can't really be anything else.
Yeah, I think in ring wise the Dudleys match I think is better, but just because the build, how it ends a 6-month storyline and how it brings in so many new storylines itself, I think you need to go for the main event. I'm the exact same. So if you've enjoyed this, you can check out our back catalogue of Ross's retro reviews. You can check out our New Japan reviews for East meets
West.
Slapping at myself here, I can't say East meets West. Grant and Scott talk about things very eloquently. I can't even pronounce the show name. There's Power Trip, which is Scott and Stephen talking about NWA Power. We have 4-Way Fatal with Gary Kernahan. We have the Wednesday Night Wars with David Hockney. We have Saturday Draft Live with Scott. How many shows are you fucking on?
You talk about East meets West. God knows what we're going to do for March. When coronavirus has wrecked everything Japan had planned for March.
Scott and David do Saturday Draft Live. We have Alba Good Graps with Sarah and Kwaku. We have so much more, and as always, we have a weekly show released every Thursday on our main feed. Different topics every week, be it about Scottish wrestling, AEW, WWE, New Japan, or even just topics to do round wrestling. We've done wrestlers in mainstream media, we've done wrestlers in movies, we've done so many things. We've done social media in wrestling.
We've even fantasy booked a few times.
We've even fantasy booked, and we rebook shows. You'll also find interviews, reviews and previews on that feed. There is so much more, so many things. That's on Suplex Retweet Extra and Eat Sleep Suplex Retweet, both available on Android, iTunes, Spotify and Anchor. And if you can't remember any of that, at Suplex Retweet is our social media handle for all of those things. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook and YouTube. And again, if you can't take in all that information, just go to suplexretweet.com. You've got links aplenty to take you to everything you need to know. Next time, me and Scott are going to be reviewing Fully Loaded, because apparently Scott's on every pissing show here. Me and Scott are going to review Fully Loaded 2000. SummerSlam 2000's coming up soon. Me and Stephen Wilson are going to be reviewing that. Unforgiven 2000, that's going to be me and Strack. And No Mercy 2000 is going to be me and David Campbell. So many things coming up. Thank you very much for joining us, and good night.
Right.